This is breaking news from the WOWT 6 News Media Center.
We are interrupting our regular programming to bring you live coverage of a news conference with Douglas County Attorney Don Kleine. He's going to discuss the recent deaths of Jesus Marinero and the heartbreaking news of 5-year-old Josue Marinero. The little boy's body recovered this morning from the Elkhorn River. Let's listen in.
Deputy Police Department Homicide Unit and Chief Deputy County Attorney Brenda Beadle. This afternoon we have charged Robert C. Martinez Marinero with 1 count of first-degree murder and use of a weapon in the commission of that felony in the murder of Jesus Maria Marinero, whose body was discovered on May 6, 2015 at 4th and Cedar. We have also charged Roberto Martinez Marinero with 1 count of first-degree murder for the murder of Josue Ramirez Marinero, a 5-year-old whose body was found today in the Elkhorn River. Martinez Marinero has also been charged with kidnapping and the abduction of and the abandoning of 11-month-old Angel Ramirez Marinero in the dumpster near 86th and Parkview Boulevard on Wednesday, May 6th of 2015. Gabriela Guevara has been charged with 5 counts of accessory to a felony for her role in assisting Martinez Marinero in lying to police and removing or concealing evidence. They will appear in courtroom number 50 for their initial appearance at 9 a.m. tomorrow, May 12th, over in the Correctional Center. And again, this is an ongoing investigation with the Omaha Police Department and several other law enforcement agencies being involved, including the La Vista Police Department, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and there were many other agencies that were also involved in helping locate and find little Josue today. So we want to thank all those other agencies for helping and participating. That's all I have with regard to the charges. The charges themselves speak for themselves. There are also, because it's a first-degree murder case, there is evidence of aggravating circumstances that exist, and those aggravators will be filed if and when the case is bound over to the District Court of Douglas County. The aggravators are 2, and that is, at the time, this applies obviously to Roberto, the defendant, that the murder, at the time the murder was committed, the offender also committed another murder, multiple murders, same transaction. And also that the murder was committed in an effort to conceal the commission of a crime or to conceal the identity of the perpetrator of such crime, and that deals with the murder of Josue. So those aggravators we feel exist. There's evidence that show those aggravators, and those aggravators will be filed at the time the case is filed in the district court. Any questions?
Do we know whether this had anything to do or any kind of affiliation with the gang?
Not that I'm aware of at this time. As I said before, there's an ongoing investigation that's taking place here. There's still a lot of work that's being done by the Omaha Police Department. But as far as to my knowledge, there's no information that shows that there's any gang involvement.
Can you talk about whether there was any partnership with Roberto's girlfriend at all?
Well, she's charged.
But in terms of her controlling him, do we know anything about that? Can you speak on behalf of whether he said he was under the influence of someone else?
I'm not going to go there. I don't think there's any evidence that he was under the influence of anything other than himself at the time that he committed these acts. So I think the evidence will speak for itself when it comes out in court.
Can you kind of give us a timeline of how it all unfolded in terms of, what happened to the mother as opposed to what happened to the kids?
Obviously, you're aware that the mother's body was found early evening hours, I believe, of the 6th at that area at 4th and Cedar, and then backtracking that obviously things happened prior to that, maybe even the evening before, sometime in the early morning hours of that day. I don't want to go into too much detail at this time. Like I said, this is still an ongoing investigation. There's witnesses that are still being interviewed. There's a lot of work that's still being done. So I won't go into really a timeline as such at this point in time.
Are you able to say how cases started?
Yes, she was stabbed multiple times with a knife, and also had a blunt force trauma to her face and head from a baseball bat, it appears.
Have you recovered any murder weapons at this time?
That's, like I said, there's an ongoing investigation. There's a lot of work being done to try and recover those items.
I also understand at the scene you understood that maybe she was taken before you could see her. Are you able to say where the murder happened yet, or are you still investigating that as well?
Well, we know where it happened. We have, and I'd rather not go there at this point in time. Like I said, let's let things sort through a little bit. It might even come out tomorrow morning in court as to the exact location.
Can you speak specifics on why the search was focused at one point in time south of West Center Road? Any intel that you guys got?
I mean, as
that
far
led
as
to
why that bridge and why the river, well, certainly there obviously was some statements made that led us to believe that the defendant had taken the young boy and thrown him off the bridge into the river. And that's what led us to his body.
Specifically south of West Center, clear out near like 204th?
Right. The bridge
Based on
across the
statements.
Elkhorn River, right.
Has Roberto said why he did any of this?
Again, with regard to motive, I think there's still a lot of work being done as to why anybody would do these kinds of acts, which it's hard to imagine what was going through anybody's mind. So let's just let things develop in the course of that investigation.
Can you
Anybody
remind
else
us what?
possibly involved?
What's that?
Anybody else possibly involved?
Well, there's work being done. I would say no at this point in time. There's no inclination or any evidence that anybody else participated.
Did he have a prior record? You know anything about that?
I didn't find much of a record, I believe, when we ran him.
Can you remind us what he faces with this charge?
Well, the first-degree murder charges carry life, but with the aggravating circumstances, there's also the possibility of the death penalty. A three-judge panel would determine that if the jury found that the aggravators did exist from the evidence. On each count of first-degree murder, the use of the knife or weapon carries 1 to 20 years, and that's consecutive. The kidnapping charge also carries up to life imprisonment. The accessory charges that she is facing there are 2 Class 3 felonies which carry 1 to 20 years apiece, and then 3 Class 4 felonies which carry 0 to 5 years apiece.
So all the charges in connection to Angel's disappearance and abduction will be here in Douglas County? Will there be any in Sarpy County?
No, we contacted the Sarpy County Attorney's Office. We've also met, and I went to the La Vista Police Department. The abduction, or him taking the child, started here in Omaha and went out to that dumpster in La Vista. So that's where the kidnapping charge emanates from. So that'll take care of that charge. So I guess if you're asking, no, the charge will be here in Douglas County.
Again, can you tell us if Ismania was murdered before or after he was kidnapped and dumped, or before or after?
Oh, if you're asking for the timing of that,
Yeah.
the murder occurred and then the children were taken. So the children were taken after the homicide.
As we keep going through our investigation.
Right. That's where we're at right now as far as how that happened.
Do we know of the well-being of Josue before he was dumped into the river? Was he alive?
Yes, as far as we know, he was fine. All right.
Don, one more question. Just following up on that, were the children with her at the time of the murder then, or did you touch on that?
When you say with her, are you talking about Mom?
Yes. with
Yes.
the baby.
They were there, at least at the residence that the homicide took place. And then she was removed and the children were taken. And what was done to the children you're aware of now, with Angel being placed in the dumpster and Josue being thrown from the bridge into the river. Anything else? Anything else, Brenda? Stephanie? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
I've got a copy of the informations, if you want, just setting out the charges. And I'll put these on the table here.
That's Douglas County Attorney Don Kleine with new information in the deaths of Jesus and Josue Marinero. Of course, they found the body of the 5-year-old in the Elkhorn River. County Attorney Don Kleine saying that they believe that Josue was alive when his older brother, threw him into the Elkhorn River. He also went into more depth about Jesus's death, saying that they believe that she was stabbed multiple times and also suffered from blunt force trauma, that being a possible baseball bat that her eldest son used on her. Charged in the case, Roberto Martinez, who is 25, Marinero, and his girlfriend, Gabriela Guevara. County Attorney Don Kleine saying Roberto facing first-degree murder charges and also aggravated circumstances, which could make the death penalty possible, and those charges will be in Douglas County Court. Again, both of those suspects, Roberto and Gabriela, are expected to appear in a Douglas County courtroom tomorrow morning at 9:15. It has been a heartbreaking day for our community hearing the news about 5-year-old Josue Marinero. We will continue to cover this story on WOWT 6 News, and we will continue to cover their court appearances. You can trust us online and also on Facebook. Thanks for joining us.